Okay, joining us now, the 2024 champion of the UTMB, Mr. Vincent Bouillard. Vincent, welcome. Good morning. How are you feeling?
Good morning. Feeling as good as I could hope for. I can walk slowly, so it's all right. That's a win.
You can walk slowly. You took the elevator up here this morning, which was well-deserved. I took the stairs, not to brag. Got my vert in today. Waking up this morning, I bet it literally felt like waking up from a dream. Where is your mindset, your emotional state after achieving such an incredible thing yesterday?
I don't know. To be honest, I think we joked about that yesterday, that I was really focused on the physical and like sport challenge. And, everything was set up for me to try and perform my best. I clearly did not prepare for all of the, everything else that goes about, if you win this race, there's going to be huge, media, explosion and requests. So, lots of unread messages that I still need to go through. But it's also fun because honestly, just looking at, I was rereading some of our best friends, group chat threads, and it carries a lot of emotion. So that's pretty cool.
Oh, because I'm sure everybody's just heart exploded with joy and pride for your accomplishment. I wanted to have you actually talk about that, just the sensation of literally becoming, maybe famous is the wrong word, but going from being somebody who, the people who know you have a lot of respect for your capabilities as an athlete, but coming in, nobody was talking about you as a favorite, except for Freetrail, who identified you as a dark horse.
That's right.
But the sensation of that overwhelming amount of inbound, is it unnatural or uncomfortable for you?
It's definitely not my personality per se to go to taking the spotlight, but I think it's something that I will embrace within reason, and I guess go today there's a lot of interviews, which is great because it's also opportunity to maybe tell a story that I don't know that it's different, but at least it's mine. And it's in the finish line interview, I joked about the fact I don't post on social media other than Strava, or I guess with a close network of friends. And yes, there will be a before and an after of what happened this weekend and accomplishing a childhood dream. But at the same time, I hope that it doesn't mean that my life has to change. I hope I can keep control of my life and decide what maybe will change and what doesn't.
It is a different story, and I think that's what's going to make this year's edition and your performance so exciting and so memorable, and will likely inspire a lot of people for years to come. But because this is an introduction to introduce you to more people, I'd love to just spend a couple of minutes on who you are, and I want to take it in two parts, both your professional background and your athletic background. Let's start with sport. I heard that you ran steeplechase. I know that you're a cyclist. I heard that you did some orienteering when you were younger. Of course, you're a trail runner now. So maybe just summarize your competitive foundation, or the foundation upon which this UTMB victory was established.
Yeah, totally. I grew up in this region, not in Chamonix, but in Annecy. I was born and raised in Annecy. And I think it took me... It's not until adult life that I realized how active my family network and the context I grew up in was, and I would hang out with other friends and oh, you don't do sport by default on your weekends? What do you mean? So I was never super competitive in anything that I would practice, but always spending time outside, whether it was hiking in the summer, lots of skiing in the winter, and then found running as kind of just a baseline for a lot of other things. But I've never been a huge competitor.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, notably with track and field, which is still there's not a ton of sport that I still watch on TV, but we watch the entire Olympics and the trials and everything. Yeah. I love track, but I think I've had a very difficult relationship with competing on the track because it came with so much pressure of you've got to show up within, there's a few minutes of performing at your best level. Mm-hmm. And as opposed to that, I think longer endurance efforts suit me a lot better because it's you've got time to settle in, set your plan up. Things will go wrong. You can adapt from this. It's more a longer term management type of thing. So I've practiced different type of endurance sport, and in more recent years, especially through COVID, like found a lot of cycling and like long distance things. Yeah.
So what has been your relationship with competition generally? Because a lot of people who are discovering you this weekend will be looking up your race results, and there's frankly not a lot. You've done a few things in the past couple of years, all of which have been successful, but you said that you've had maybe a mixed relationship with competition over time. Say a little bit about that.
Yeah, hopefully that's not too cliche to say, but like I really truly enjoy the process that leads to the competition. So even you look at UTMB, of course, it's incredible weekend, incredible race, but I've had so much fun through this training block. Like I was like a kid in a candy store when I came to Chamonix and spent a week with the Hoka athletes and like ran the course for the first time. Like it's the biggest training weeks that I've done running wise in my whole life. Like I was so excited about that. And so I think there's a bit of that like I enjoyed the practice and the training and the process itself. And also I think in our life with Camila and with work schedule and other like social schedule, we're trying to set a reasonable balance of how much sport and racing should take and how much it's like, okay, maybe it's not for too often, because really if you start to do more races, then it's like, oh, there's a tapering phase and maybe there's travel involved and then you're really tired for like 10 days after. So I think it works for me as well to be more reasonable and trying to focus on fewer objectives in terms of competition. Yeah.
So your professional background then, famously you work for Hoka and you've been there for a long time. So say a few words about what you do specifically for Hoka and what it's like to be with the brand at a period of time when it's really taken off globally.
Yeah, totally. I'm really grateful for all the time that I spent with Hoka, and it adds definitely a layer of how special the win here with like the Hoka being the title sponsor. But it's not something that I never thought like, oh, one day I'm going to work in shoes. I started at Hoka. I didn't know how we make shoes or things like that. I studied...
Because you were an intern, right?
Yeah, I started as an intern at the end of my studies for material engineering. So before that, literally, I was working as like a research student in a like polymer material lab. So working on like extrusion, like recycling of plastics and like very fundamental research stuff. And I had been in touch with several of the Hoka team several members of the Hoka team at the time, trying to ping them. 'Cause I was really curious to see like how much science goes in the product that we use for sports and recreation. And that has that was something that intrigued me. And yeah, I did start as an intern at the beginning of 2016. Very quickly after the internship, I was fortunate to be put on many different responsibilities and I've had different roles with the company. I moved to the US for big part of it was personal choice and personal life decision, but also to pursue a next chapter in my professional career. So, yeah.
So is it true that your work has directly contributed to like the footwear you were wearing yesterday? We were talking to Chris Hollis and he said something like there were 157 versions of the Tecton shoe and that you personally tested a lot of them. I'm sure our audience would be curious to hear about that. Yeah,
it's true. So the shoe I wore was it's called Tecton X2.5 because it's an evolution of the Tecton X2 that was developed really with like Jim's racing shoe as a target and objective. And I was not leading that project per se. Christophe Aubonnet is a project leader because he works more specifically on athletes and athletes projects and racing department. But part of what I do within engineering is to help in development of technologies, materials, like things that go in products like these. So I've worked a lot, for instance, on the foam that's used in the shoe that I ran with. What has it been like to see the massive adoption of the public of the products that you work on? It's fun. I think it's great to, I remember we were joking walking in Chamonix this week. The first UTMB that I came while working at Hoka, we were really excited to see like, hey, someone's wearing Hokas over there. Look at that. And it's, now it's obviously grown to whole other levels of popularity, but it's cool to, in the work, to kind of bring a lot of things back to basic needs. Like, well, like, what do you need out of your product, like footwear? Like, yeah, trail running is a big thing when you're in Chamonix or if you're in the, in the sphere of trail running. But like, what does it mean for someone who's never heard about the sport? Maybe they would need a trail running shoe as well. And it's interesting to define like what that means in terms of when you create products. Yeah.
So cool. So through Hoka, you've developed a great friendship with last year's champion, Jim Walmsley. And I'd like to ask you about that. Your wife, Camila, is here. I know you guys are very close with Jim and Jess. Say a few words about your relationship with Jim and maybe specifically how he in some way inspired or contributed to your victory yesterday.
Yeah, so the fun anecdote is that Jim signed his first contract or was finalizing the detail of his first contract the year I started with Hoka. And he knows that, so that's not a problem. But like, I had no idea who the heck he was. So I think that participated to the fact that we bonded rather quickly because he was very famous and like everyone was excited. And I was like, yeah, I don't know who you are. Sorry, like, hi. But year after year, we've developed a pretty special friendship and relationship, and with Camila and with Jess, like shared some vacation trips, and they've spent some time over here, and then we visited them in Flagstaff or in Colorado. And for sure, he's among others, he's a big mentor of mine in terms of how inspirational many of his endless athletics accomplishments have been. And I think being able to know someone and understand what it is to, compete at that level while like, everyone is just human. Like they go about their daily life and stuff. And it's like, well, it's not that it tells you, it click like, oh, sure, I can do that as well. But it's more like, I guess you see the full spectrum of what it takes to set some elements that participate and help to get you closer to higher level performance. So, and
being close to him maybe gives you a better appreciation of the fact that he is human and he has a normal life outside of being a heroic athlete.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're both amazing human beings, Jess and Jim, and but he also has definitely helped with some either aid station little tricks or like gear optimization type of things. So anything
you can share publicly, or are we keeping those proprietary for the moment?
Super secret stuff. No.
Well, it's very cool, and I mean, it's another special story of you guys being close friends. Him being the winner last year, you being the winner this year, and you having at least some inspiration drawn from Jim and his career. Let's talk about your history with the race, because I think this is interesting also because you've been here many times in various capacities, but this was your first time competing at UTMB or any of the UTMB races. Talk about your relationship with this event over time.
I think I was trying to put like the exact years and dates on when I've come for the first time. I don't remember. I would need to look back at photos or ask maybe in my family. But for many years, like seen the event grow, and like I had like, I think through my dad's work, like he would always get me like the poster of the year's edition. So I would always have like the recent editions poster in my like teenage room. And like following all of the winners, and of course like with Kilian arriving and just changing the sport completely. It's always been something that has attracted me, just because even if I grew up in the region, Annecy is an hour and a half drive away. And so coming to Chamonix is always special. It's like, you come and you see the big mountains and there's the glaciers and the aiguilles everywhere. So there's always a special feeling coming here. And I had, in fact, not only never participated to UTMB, but I had never done this trail. Like I'd never hiked other than in the Chamonix Valley and immediately around the aid stations. And I knew that was like someday for sure I'm going to do it. And I think after seeing the event so many times, like, I really want to try it. And it's like, through work also I've been fortunate to see lots of other sports events. And I think this atmosphere that is in town during this week, and the start line and the finish is just, I've never felt, even though you know what it's about and you know every year, yes, there's going to be the music. There's like every time you're there, it's like, that's something. So it's really cool to, even being on the start line was already like so happy to be there.
Unbelievable. So let's talk about the process to get here. We were joking yesterday that it was the classic Gorge Waterfalls 100K to UTMB Championship pipeline. So, and I also told the story about how you and I met when I was running on Skyline and you pulled up next to me on your bike.
That's right.
And said, "Hey, what's up?" And anyway, it's been, it seems like a pretty great process to get here. You don't race often, but when you do, it's very successful. You won Gorge. You won Kodiak in an amazing time. That was your qualification. And then Annecy, the maxi race in May. Maybe you could just say a few words about that process, like knowing that UTMB was your end goal, how those maybe 3 events in succession set you up for what happened this weekend that ultimately surprised a lot of people.
I actually just remember, I met you earlier, but I don't know that you remember that. My first attempt to an ultra was very early during my time with Hoka. I raced at the TNF 50. In fact, you finished right behind. I think we finished like very close to each other with Ryan at the 50 miler in San Francisco. And you and Ryan
did a battle at the like TNF 50?
The funniest thing, we finished literally like maybe 2 spots.
It was like 3 minutes or something.
Yeah.
No way. Ryan, you almost beat a UTMB champion in a 50-mile race.
Like 3 minutes apart, we finished 4 people apart or something.
Yeah.
In 2017?
2017, yeah.
No way. What a story.
But I mentioned that because that was my first attempt to longer distance in trail running. And I think I clearly did not know my body as much and just hadn't prepared as well. And I think every time I've always wanted to try longer distance in running specifically. But I've dealt with a lot of just injuries and not understanding as much of the how much training to do. And I was getting excited to try again more things right when I moved to the US at the beginning of 2020. But then with COVID, there were like no races happening. So that just put a break on a lot of potential racing plans. And I think, after the pandemic, I kind of got that itch of, let's try, let's see what I can do if I focus a little more precisely on how to build a proper training block. I got the opportunity to do lots of very long endurance projects on the bike during COVID, so that also enabled me to practice.
I was going to ask you about that. Nathaniel Friedman said that you had done like a 30-hour push or something on the California's Pacific Coast Highway from San Francisco to Santa Barbara or something. So you do have experience with the sort of ultra endurance type projects.
Yeah, that was in California is amazing for cycling, notably. It's just great weather year round. But so to come back on your prior question on the Gorge and then Kodiak and UTMB, I think I knew that if I was to try to get to longer distance, I wanted to see first how my body react, but I kind of had in mind that one day I'd like to get into UTMB. And when you're not an elite and things, well, it's a process. Like it's not something that you decide the months prior to coming to August, Chamonix. And so, I was thinking of the Gorge Waterfall because we had just moved to Portland and it's an amazing race that I had heard about and seen. And the trails are fantastic. You went very well. I was very happy with it. And then Kodiak was to get the entry to UTMB. Same just for logistics of, it was close to lots of friends and family we have in Southern California. It's honestly a really beautiful course on the mountains above LA. And, but.
What about the maxi race? Because I went back and looked at the results and it was Mathieu Blanchard, Aurélien Dunant-Plaz, Thibaut Garivier, and Baptiste, who finished second to you yesterday. Of course, the top 3 guys from the maxi race, unfortunately, didn't make the finish line, but all 5 of you started UTMB. You finishing 5th there. Were there any specific learnings that you took with you to the UTMB start line?
Yeah, totally. So my the maxi race was another list that I had, another race that I had on the bucket list, because it's literally you go around the lake in Nancy, and I had never done it before, so it's a really, really cool course. But it's actually, I think, the perfect course in a UTMB training block, because it's half the distance with the same vert ratio. It's more technical overall, but you get a great variety of type of terrain. And we just moved from the US to Annecy at the end of April this year. And signing up to Maxi Race for me was like, all right, I'm going to see if I still know how to run on like super technical trails.
Yeah.
And I knew that I would be short in terms of preparation because Portland has amazing trail, but there's not as much like long.
It's not like Annecy, yeah.
It's not Annecy. So I got a mini training block, or a very precise training block for Maxi Race, but I knew that I would get a lot of learnings out of it, not just because of the terrain and the type of racing, but also because with Gorge and Kodiak last year, I raced by myself in the front the entire time. Mm-hmm. Like at Kodiak, I raced for 16 hours solo.
Right.
And Gorge, I think I was with another runner for maybe the first few hours, but then I was in the front.
Yeah.
And I needed to face competition.
Yeah.
Like I wanted, ahead of UTMB, I was like, for sure, that's not going to happen at UTMB. Mm-hmm. So I want to experience what is it to be challenged, to like have packs in front and the back and stuff. And I knew with Maxi Race, usually there's really good density of runners there.
Okay, perfect transition then. Let's start talking about the race itself. Early in the race, obviously, it is a big pack. Can you just talk about the dynamic of the front of the men's race this year and what your psychology or strategy was in those early miles?
Yeah, I think I was trying to focus on my effort and not too much about what was going on around, because I expected it to start even faster. I was like, oh, sometimes it's always crazy. People go out front like way too fast. The first climb from Les Ouches was actually, I think I was on not too unreasonable fast pace. With a couple of us in the lead. I think there were two runners in the front on that first climb. Yep. But then Jim caught up on me at the very top. So then it was fun to be, I had so many people think I was Jim. So I got a lot of like, allez Jim, allez. And then literally like 10 seconds later, they would see Jim come by and like, okay, that was confusing. But it was still a big group when we got to Saint-Gervais, and then a bit more splits, I guess, until Les Contamines. I did not feel that great after Les Contamines, so I took it pretty easy on the climb to the Col du Bonhomme with another group catching me. Katie Charles called me as well, and I was like, she's going to get on the podium, if not like win overall potentially, because she started really fast.
Katie Charles caught Vincent on the climb to Col du Bonhomme. For the fans of the sport, that's really awesome. I
mean, on the first climb, she was not that far behind the lead. Like I was with Germain, and she was like, right underneath, maybe like less than a minute for sure. Yeah.
Incredible. Okay, so to me, when I go back and look at the tracker, it feels like the critical section was from Les Chapieux to Courmayeur. So for our viewers and listeners, that's roughly mile 31 to mile 51, so roughly mile 50K to 80K. And I believe you were in 8th or 9th at Les Chapieux, and then you were in 1st by Courmayeur. That's the section where you go up over the Col de la Seine, the Col de la Pyramids. It's through the middle of the night. So if you could just describe what happened between Les Chapieux and Courmayeur, how you were able to establish yourself at the front of the UTMB race.
So I knew that I only ran this course once, like a couple of weeks ago, beginning of August, and I really like the Col de la Seine climb because the beginning is very runnable, which suits my profile, and I like when you can just run a little faster. It's relatively fast, but compared to our average pace. And so I started to feel a little better getting down to Les Chapieux. Took the time to like hydrate and refuel properly. And I just went at what pace felt like comfortable to me. Looking at a bit of metrics to ensure I was not like unreasonable fast, but like, okay, let's see try and rally a little bit and hold a pace that I know I can sustain for like pretty much like very, very long. And honestly surprised myself, like catching like runner after runner and after runner.
On the climb to Col de Lausanne, you were catching people.
Yeah, even after the runnable part was over and starting like hiking and like with poles, it felt in a steady rhythm. Like I felt really comfortable. And I was just catching people. I caught Tim, which he was like super psyched. Tim Tolleson, which is also a good friend. And it was funny because I like a tap on his shoulder. I was like, "Oh, dude, that's you." But then I kept pushing and got over the top of Col de la Seigne. Some volunteers said like, "Oh yeah, there's like a group that's not that far ahead," and then Jim a little further, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I guess I'm not that far." And I caught really easily on. It was Germain, Tom Evans, and two other runners to Pyramide Calcaire. And I stayed with Ben Dimon was in that group as well. Yeah. We kind of stayed somewhat together until the climb up to Arrête Montfavre. But same, like I was feeling like really easy, like following. It was.
So climbing was your strength?
Well, I honestly, like what felt like my comfortable cruising pace enabled me to catch up on them. And then when I was in the group, I was like, oh, I'm like recovering if I stay in that, which I was checking. I was like, okay, is this truly, or how long is this going to last? Like maybe I'll have a low moment that's going to come like in not that long. But it kept feeling like really good. So in the climb up to Arrête Montfavre, I just pushed a little harder and kind of put a little gap on Germain and Tom Evans. And in the descent to Courmayeur, there were two others were not far behind me, but we caught on Jim. And it's funny because same thing, like he didn't expect to see me, so he was like really excited. But unfortunately, he was not doing well. But the funny thing is, I thought there was another runner in front. And so he told me, he's like, no, it's you. Like, you're in front of the race. And I was like, well, what do I do now?
Dude, goosebumps in the studio here. Basically, Jim Walmsley is passing the baton to Vincent Bouillard at the front of the UTMB race on the descent to Courmayeur. Where is your headspace at in that moment? I mean, understanding the massive implications of that.
I think it's mentally, I was like, okay, I'm going to try and like catch up spots, but I wasn't like, I need to get in the front of that race. Like that was not my move to make.
Sure.
And I think.
But I mean, is there doubt there? I mean, it goes without saying, right? You were 69th ranked runner coming into the race. Obviously, those of us who know you, everybody knows that you're a very talented athlete. But for many people, when they woke up and checked the tracker, they were saying, who is Vincent Bouillard? And for yourself to be like fairly inexperienced, especially against those names you just listed, Jim Walmsley, Tom Evans, Ben Dimon, Germain, you're at the lead of the race.
Yeah.
Where's your head at that point? Is there doubt, or is it competition, belief, process?
So I think that's where like having experience in long endurance, and including in other sport, helps, because I was really focused on my own effort. And what I like with the length of those endurance efforts is that everyone kind of goes through rough patches at moments. And so when I realized that I was taking the lead, I was like, okay, well, that's where I am now, but very likely some other people will catch up on me later. And I just to focus on like how I feel, what pacing is right for me. And if that means that right now I'm making up a little time, great. Like we joke that we've been watching, I don't know if you watched The Bear, the TV show.
I know it, but I never got into it.
I just wrote on my shoe one of the statements that they have in the restaurant that says like every second counts. And so I had that written on my shoe. It was like, yeah, but truly, like if I'm taking time now, like might as well take it now. I feel okay.
Yeah.
And so that's where when getting into Courmayeur in the lead, I was trying to like not focus on the fact that like, yes, I'm in the lead of UTMB, but more like, no, I'm feeling okay now. Let's try and be efficient. I feel good on the climbs. Let's go after the next climb and see what happens. But I think it helped me not putting too much pressure on like, yes, but what does that mean? What are the implications of like being in the lead? I was just like, this is my effort. This is how I feel good. I think I can keep up with this pace for a good while longer. And like, you can't control what the others are going to do. And so being in control of my own effort was really what I was focused on.
But you were then in control of the race all the way to the finish line. Germain was the one who was closest through about Champay-Lac. He ultimately dropped out at Trient. Were you getting updates from the field in terms of your progress? Yeah. Where was the point at which it started to feel real that you might be able to win the race?
I was really focused on not thinking about that.
Okay.
I was like, not until I get to the very last turn in Chamonix, then I can.
I saw you at Champay-Lac and I said, finish the deal, man.
Yes.
And I was like, shit, I was probably too early to say that. There's still 50 very hard kilometers to go.
It was good to have that, actually. It was good to have that as a wake up. As like, yeah, you're not letting that go.
Yeah.
But no, I was trying to ask what the splits were. And I think, so the climb up to Berton out of Courmayeur, I think I had loosely like 3 minutes gap at the top, but it's give or take. I don't know how precise it was. I liked the runnable part after that. And basically when I got to Arnuva, I was started to think, I was like, well, it's very unlikely if they catch up on me that I'll have another opportunity to be in the front again. Like the odds of that, like they'll have the psychological advantage of like coming back on me. So quickly I realized like, no, I should try and like push now, because like try and basically squeeze everything now and see how much of a gap I can increase, if at all. But it's kind of like my move to try and make. And so up to the Grand Col Ferret, I try and like maintain a good pace, and I think I increased a little bit. And then I was hoping the long descent until not just La Folie, but after the bottom of Champay. Same, like very runnable, so that can suit me, but then your muscles are also really tired at this point. But I think it helps psychologically at that point to be in the lead, to be like, yeah, but like, I don't want to listen to the legs and just like try and run really fast to see if I can increase again. And so I was happy when I got to Champay, because same, like the climb to Champay, I was like, same thing, okay, like I can keep pushing, because in terms of how it plays in the race, I guess I could take a psychological advantage if I was able to like increase the gap, checkpoint after checkpoint. Yeah.
So you have to get going here in a second. So let's fast forward to the finish. I heard Jim was actually up at the Flagère to greet you and cheer for you. So maybe you could say a few words about that. But then also dropping into the Chamonix Valley, running through town, through the finishing arch, your wife Camila greeting you at the finish line. What was it like?
So it's funny because we were just saying how I was trying not to focus on like, you know, like I have to finish. I have to like bring it home and win this thing. I think because mentally I was so focused on not thinking about that, I really was even like struggling at the end to like fully embrace, maybe because I was so focused on like, no, like get to the end of it. But no, it's surreal. Like even the climb up to La Flégère with like crowds, like just like singing and screaming my name, and it's like, really?
Me?
Like that's definitely
the humble materials engineer from Annecy.
It's crazy. Like it's I truly have had moments through the night where those thoughts were coming in, and I literally would have a split of second of starting tearing up, and that's when I was like, nope. Can't let that thought come through. Like you have to stay focused. And so I didn't even cry at the end, because I think I like was so hard on myself not letting that come through. But it's incredible. Like having so many family members on the finish line, like it's so special.
So cool. Your family who was standing there with Camilla, just like, you know, screaming with joy and everything. Just, it's the best part of the sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
it's incredible. Yeah.
So it's obviously way too early to know how this might fundamentally change your future. But as a UTMB champion, there's going to be a lot of unexpected and exciting opportunities coming your way. You made a lot of new fans this weekend, and I'm sure a lot of people are curious to hear. Again, it's way too early to know, but just like, you've now proven you're among the best in the world, and you sort of, this happened overnight. Does this give you excitement to see how far you can push your potential in the sport? Are there other things in the future that you're already thinking about?
I have lots of thoughts. I don't know what and when and in what order, but this was a dream. Like this was a bucket list thing that I've been dreaming about since I was a little kid, or I guess a little older than that. But so letting that sink in for a bit, for sure. But then it's funny, we were having conversations with friend in Nancy about like getting all the membership at the local track club and getting back to doing a cross-country racing season this winter. I'm really excited about that, actually. And yeah, just some fun. Like there's so many iconic races now that we live in the Alps. I like the long endurance things, but I also love shorter, like marathon type of effort. I don't know that I fully explored what I can do in those type of formats. I love the training blocks for those type of races. Yeah. So maybe trying to see some shorter distance stuff. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, the future is bright. It's an abundant opportunity for you to pick and choose what inspires you. But Vincent, I think on behalf of the trail running community, it's an amazing story to see you come here and do what you did yesterday, inspiring all of us, especially those of us who have normal jobs and normal lives, that you can come and compete at the highest level. And I'm sure, again, speaking on behalf of the community, we're excited to see and hear what's next for you. So congratulations, and thanks for making the time for us.
Of course, yeah. I mean, thank you. And Freetrail has been a running buddy on lots of my long runs in Portland, so it's great to be here and chat with you both. So thanks for everything you do.